Hey guys, welcome to the 5th episode of my guide to the basics of Python. Today we're going to be covering two topics, strings and functions. We're going to take a deeper look into what a string is and how we can manipulate it and how we can make our own functions. So let's get right into it. Let's start with strings. Strings are very similar to lists. They're index-like lists, which means we can refer to specific parts or characters in the strings. One big difference between strings and lists is that you cannot change a character in a string by referring to its index. Instead, we can use a replace method to change a character anywhere in the string with the character that we specify. The replace method changes characters for every instance of that character in a list. So, for example, if I were to take a string that said today is a great day and use the replace method to change A to E, then it will replace every instance of the letter A in the string with E. There are many useful methods that can be used with strings, so I recommend checking out the Python documentation as well as W3 Schools, both of which I linked in the description of this video. Now let's get into functions. Functions are ways that we can do repetitive things quicker by not having to type that same code every time we would want to use that thing. The way that we make functions is by typing def, name of function, and then parameters within parentheses followed by a colon. Then typing code that we want the function to execute underneath the function within its namespace. The parameters that you define in the function will not exist outside of the namespace of that function and can only be used within that function. Sometimes we don't need a function to return anything. For example, if we wanted to make a function that printed a message, then we would not have to return a value because that function gives an output by itself. But when we want to return a value to use elsewhere in our code, we would actually need to return something that can be used and assigned to things. To do this, we can use the return keyword, which does exactly that. Return something. In this example, we created a function called add7 that takes a number as a parameter and adds 7 to it, using the return keyword to return the result of that operation. That's about it for today's lesson. To recap what we went over, we covered what a string is and how some of the ways that we can manipulate them and how we can make our own functions. As always, I've put some resources in the description of this video where you can do some more learning. That's all for now. Goodbye.